says we're rolling, but I don't see any. I don't see any internet numbers. Oh, there it is. Just popped in. According to my instrumentation, we should be live. Let me know if we are. Thank you for tuning in today. Let me know where you're listening from, if the sound is good, and if we are ready to proceed. Let me go ahead and do my back end here. That sounds great. Make sure that everything is situated, because we have plenty of stuff to talk about here today. Let's see here. It looks like the feed is running. Looks like my numbers are climbing. All right, cool. So it looks like we are in the green. Go ahead and sound off where you are listening from. And if the sound sounds good to you. So, yeah, just let me do some typing in the back end here. And then we will get started. We're going to do some reading today. We're going to do some video watching today. We're going to be doing some giving away today. You'll notice that the space looks a little bit different. I'm working on my new set in the opposing room, and this room over here will become a sort of ancillary nursery. So while I am at work, my child that will be born here in a little over a month can hang out while I work in the other room. So, provided that my wife is not working that day. So let's see. I think that this is good. This is good. We're going to need that one. Go ahead and pull this one out. We don't need that one. And then we will need this document here in a second. Sorry, I'm a terrible host. I'm just getting things ready so that we can switch to them seamlessly as we go. We got people from Ohio. We got people from Georgia. We got people from Texas. We got people from Southern Indiana. Welcome in, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. I've missed that the United States conducted a precision strike in Venezuela yesterday that resulted in the capture of their de facto president, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife. They have since been, well, we got somebody who's upset. Who cares? Go already. All right, cool. Has been captured, and they have been extradited to the United States, awaiting trial. We have the indictment. We will be going over the indictment today, some of which I did a video on yesterday. Is fine, whatever. And then other parts of it I got problems with. We'll be covering mostly the parts that I got problems with. We got somebody from Toronto and another one from Indiana. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Let me see. What did I do with that page? Yeah, hang on. Sorry, guys. Here we go. All right, cool. All right. So first of all, Toronto, Michigan. Cool. Welcome in. Here we go. We have a link posted in the live chat for all of you to take advantage of. This is a link that goes to First Form. It tells them that I sent you. They are the sponsor of today's live stream, as we have been doing for probably about the last 8 months or so. Today we will be giving away a value pack from First Form, a couple of their protein bars, a couple of their meat sticks, different flavors to give you a sample of what they're all about. To win today's live stream, as always, we have a contest. And this contest consists of the person that comes up with the best block name for Nicolas Maduro. You can't use Little Nicky because I'm entering that one as my own, right? Wins today. And that will be announced. We'll go ahead and let this one run through midday tomorrow. I'll go ahead and make a post on the VOD of this live stream, as well as on the main channel page, a post for the winner. So stick tuned. Go We'll hit it a couple more times throughout today's live stream to remind you that that is going on. So if you see comments popping up periodically, then you'll know what that's all about. So special thanks to First Form for making today's live stream possible. Have you heard Venezuela is celebrating and having a feast? We will be getting to that here in just a moment. Well, actually, you know what? We can go ahead and eliminate a couple figures right off the bat. We'll go ahead and switch over. I will show you that there are indeed celebrations in the streets. That's in Peru, so I don't know. Venezuela. See lots of activity. We'll just go ahead and skip through right here. You can see people are having a good time in Venezuela right now. And that's all well and good. I think it's great that the Venezuelans have an opportunity to return to free elections and all that sort of stuff. And I'll elaborate on that here in a moment. But I want to remind you of another incident from recent history of a whole lot of folks celebrating and saying how amazing the United States was. Not all that long ago. It was very similar to this.
2004, I used one of these to break the rules.
So I want to remind you that while we are seeing celebrations today, that doesn't necessarily mean that the conflict won't devolve into something more sinister later. Time will tell. So remember that under Maduro's rule, Venezuela has fallen on some pretty hard times. In fact, I have called him the president because that is the title of the leader of Venezuela. It's not prime minister, it's president. But he lost his last election, like 2-1, and retained power. His opposition had to flee the country. So he is absolutely a dictator, an authoritarian dictator that has assumed control, or had assumed control, extra-constitutionally against the will of the people. So I understand why there are people celebrating, and I think that it is a great thing that Venezuela has an opportunity to return to democratic elections. Will it get there? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I would say that they've got a better shot because there's a lot of interest in Venezuela not devolving into a heinous civil war and protracted conflict. Chief among those are what I believe the ulterior motives of going into Venezuela were. Now, we will be getting to the indictment here shortly, but if we are realistic about this, and the president even talked about this in his address yesterday, which there is no other way to categorize that other than a raging dumpster fire. It was not great. I gotta say, it was not great. I think that it's very transparent here that the United States has oil interests in Venezuela, but not necessarily what most people think of when you go to oil interests in Venezuela. Most of the people think, when you say that statement, most folks are going to say, okay, well, we want to go in exploit the oil resources, develop them, use them for our own means. And I think that that is quite literally true. However, there is a strategic aspect of this as well that you have to consider, that Venezuela is the main exporter to places like China and other Cuba, for instance, other states that would be, I want to choose my word, are going to be adversaries in the future. So by knocking out their strategic capacity to obtain that resource that they will need to power their navies and things like that, you have an opportunity to kick the can down the road for the Taiwanese conflict that we all know is coming, right? So it short circuits that. Also, you have to look at the geography of the region and how we refine and export our resources. Basically, all of it's in the Gulf, or a large percentage of it is in the Gulf. And for Venezuela to essentially be right across the Gulf from Texas, Louisiana, Florida, all those places, those areas are threatened by a, shall we say, unsympathetic regime across the way, shall we say. So if you look at missile capabilities, launch capabilities, things like that for the region, and you draw those circles out, Venezuela is easily in range of medium range munitions. So installing a sympathetic government, we'll just call it what it is, a regime change to a sympathetic government in the region as a whole, but certainly in Venezuela, is chief among U.S. military goals going into a potential conflict with China and the broader region. So, yes, we want the oil, but it's not just we want the oil so that we can drop gas prices. We want the oil so China can't have the oil. Okay? So it's a little bit more complicated than just steal the oil. Because let's be real, the man even said that we were going to go in and run the country until we can secure what did he use? He used the term judicious, which I'm not entirely sure that he used that term correctly, but whatever. To the chats. So Delaware here, Venezuela people are partying in the streets over their new freedoms that remain to be seen. Remember what I just said. I don't know when that comment was posted, if I had shown the figure of the celebrations in Iraq after we toppled Saddam Hussein. How did that go, right? And actually, now that I think about it, my friend Ryan Macbeth put out a video, was it yesterday or the day before, talking about why he thinks that a civil war in Venezuela is less likely than Iraq. A very good video. So go check that out if you have an opportunity to see that. Moving on. I think there's a big difference between Maduro and Saddam. Yes, there is. And not only is Maduro and Saddam individually different, but also, again, going back to Ryan's video, the makeup of the people of the region are, without getting super close to any kind of the language that would get this live stream pulled, let's just say that the demographics of the region play a huge role, and the motivations of those peoples play a huge role as to whether or not such a conflict would precipitate. And I'll just leave it at that, shall we say. Well, actually, we won't leave it at that. It really depends on the international influence from other bad actors in the region and what they are able to spin up in the area. Because you basically have, this is going to be a very, very grossly simplified. You have militia forces, you have the military, but mostly, Venezuela does not have like an expeditionary military like we do. Okay, there are very few expeditionary militaries in the world. When you think of the Venezuelan military, you should think more about like a local defense force. I'm a Warhammer fan, okay? If you go into like the 40K universe, for instance, you have what they call PDFs, Planetary Defense Forces. They are not meant to exceed the scope of the defense of the planet, right? They call in the expeditionary military to handle any like large scale problems, but you can think of them as kind of like the backwater military that is really good at operating, or in Venezuela's case, marginally good at operating in their own backyard where they know the land and they've got all their stuff set up. But as soon as you get them, a mile offshore, the whole thing, all the wheels fall off, so to speak. So anyway, where was it going? Oh, yeah. Okay. So Venezuela, you got militia, you've got the regional defense force that we'll call the military, and then you got like the police forces in the various localities and things like that. Those are really the main players. And when you think about it from a functional society standpoint, we're talking more about meeting people's basic needs. Is there food coming in? Is there water coming in? Goods and services, things like that. Are those things being met? Because we are talking about a people that have a reasonable standard of living as well, versus what we saw. Let's not stray too far in there. And if you are able to pay people and feed people, then generally speaking, as long as everybody's kids are getting fed, you are less likely to see major opposition forces. If you're getting paid by the U.S., what's the difference between being paid by the U.S. and being paid by Maduro? Anyway, let's see. Are we having audio problems? Mighty Yank says if you're having stream problems, audio dropouts, just reload and restart your stream session. Yeah, that has been a thing lately, so apologize if there's anything wrong with YouTube currently, because, man, I tell you what, yesterday was awful. It took me like 3 tries to get yesterday's video out, and I don't know what was going on. Usually I just press the buttons and it just happens. Yesterday was awful, so I apologize if you're having any problems. We got some more Warhammer people in the comments. Thanks. Welcome in. One can only hope the Venezuelan people are able to make the most of the opportunity. Yeah, I hope so too. We'll see what happens. Of course, we're going to probably play a heavy hand in that sort of stuff. It's all going to be like the perception as well. Like we can't just roll our guy or gal out there in front of the Venezuelan people and be like, hey, this is your new president. Congratulations. They're going to have to, it's careful game, right? We saw how Libya and Afghanistan and Iraq and those places went. I hope that we have in some way learned our lessons from that. Richie Rich says there are major differences between Iraq and this. Yes, he highlights that we you can read his comment, okay, but basically we rolled into Iraq and basically disbanded we fired everyone who was involved in the government. Anybody who was a Ba'ath Party member, we kicked them out of the country. I was old enough to kind of remember all that sort of stuff going down, but that included absolutely every single person that was competent. Basically, and I hate to draw the parallels because they're just, it's kind of cliche at this point in time, but it's like 1930s Germany. To get anywhere in society, you had to join a particular political party. Same thing in Iraq. You had to join the Ba'ath Party to be able to do anything, basically, to get a good job or, you know, whatever in the government. So everybody, even if they didn't like really subscribe to the ideology, joined the party. And that means that every single person who was competent in the country was a Ba'ath member. And when you fire them all and bar them from holding any positions, well, you've got nobody competent laying or, you know, standing around to do anything. So fundamental misunderstanding of the politics of the area at the time. So of course we are looking at this in 2025, looking back to the early 2000s and saying, you know, what we know now is probably, there's a fair amount of Monday quarterbacking going on. So whatever. Anyway, so again, we are having a giveaway today, sponsored by First Form. In order to win today's prize pack, the single winner will be the person who has the best block name for Nicolas Maduro. Mine is Little Nicky. You cannot use that one. If you to win, just put it in the live chat. Preferential treatment will be given to live chat, but I will also let this run for about 24 hours so that we can get some of those VOD comments in there, because we have had some VOD people win in the past as well. So go ahead and get on that. Again, pinned comment up at the very top of the live chat, and it will be in the pinned comment of the VOD as well. That lets them know that I sent you. So thanks to them for doing that. And I forgot my energy drink today. I have it sitting on the counter in the other room. Oh, whatever. We'll just do it dry today. So the next thing that I wanted to do was give you a quick overview of how the raid went. All right. Now, obviously, I don't have all the details. Nobody has all the well, somebody has all the details, but we don't have the full synopsis and battle damage assessment or any of that sort of stuff at this point in time, but we do have some general details I can walk you through when it comes to what went down when it comes to this raid. And in the early hours of yesterday, the strike began on air defense and various other elements of the Venezuelan military. Now, before I go there, for those of you who didn't watch yesterday's video or haven't been watching the news, this is being, we've already pretty much outlined what it actually is, but this is being forwarded as in the public forum as a law enforcement action. There's the United States is saying, we've wanted Nicolas Maduro for crimes against the United States for a while, and he has been acting as a head of state illegitimately since 2024, when he lost his election and subsequently forced his opposition out of the country, despite having won through corrupted military power, basically, like you would expect a vile dictator to do. The United States then says that this is a law enforcement action. We were going to arrest him. However, the president of the United States has the power to protect federal assets, whether it's a building, whether it's a piece of equipment, whether it's personnel. He has the constitutional authority to say, all right, well, hey, we're sending the DEA to Venezuela to arrest Nicolas Maduro and extradite him to the United States. There are a few things that are going to get in the DEA's way, like SAM sites and militia and security guards and a big compound and all that sort of stuff. They're going to have problems getting to him to put the cuffs on him. So we're going to, instead of just sending them down there via car. We're going to fly them in via helicopters, and we're going to blow up everything in their way on their way in. Okay, that's basically what they're saying, even though we've already defined what this is, which is a defensive action, forward-looking, against Chinese infrastructure procurement for their aggression against allies, as well as procurement and development of U.S. oil interests. Okay, we know that. But justification for regime changes is always needed. So there you go. There it is. So anyway, early hours of yesterday, the precision strike begins, and we start picking apart their air defense and various other elements that might get in the way. So isolating and deterring everything, basically, that was in the area. Simultaneously, a ground assault element was ingressing into the area. It consisted of various law enforcement. We have confirmed that it was at least DEA, supported by various elements of air, sea, and land, Marine Corps, Air Force, Navy, Air National Guard, as well as Delta Force. So we've got top cover run by general big military. We're talking F-22s, F-35s, F-18s, bombers, AWACS, all of it, right? And then on the helicopters, you got law enforcement agents to arrest Nicolas Maduro and his wife, and Delta Force to do all the door kicking and the blasting of bad guys type thing. So anyway, question that we will come back to is difference between this and Noriega. I'll come back to Noriega and the parallels there a little bit. Actually, you know what? I'll just go ahead and address that now. Noriega, I would argue that Noriega was in a stronger position politically, and this kind of interplays into the whole thing that we're talking about now, which is the strike. I would say that he was in a stronger position politically, as well as in the actual political structure of his country. For instance, Maduro doesn't even have Venezuelan security. He imports it from various other places, namely Cuba and things like that. So he doesn't even trust his own people. Anyway, which will play a role here in a second. So after about, as we dismantle the air defense, simultaneously we got that ground element that is ingressing via helicopter. I've looked at the videos. It looks to me like we've got definitely a couple Chinooks. Looks like some Blackhawks. I would assume, I've seen reports that there were gunships as well. I would assume that they would be escorted not only with top cover, but also helicopter gunships. So things like Apaches, Little Birds, things like that. I would assume we're also along, but I haven't seen any definitive video that isn't like super grainy that suggests that there were gunships along with, but we would assume that that's what happened. I've seen reports that there were Little Birds and Apaches, but I haven't seen any definitive video. I can tell you that I can see in the video that's a Chinook and that's a Black Hawk, right? Because they come over this building all the time. So anyway, after about 30 minutes of precision bombardment, we had essentially completely annihilated the air defense in Caracas. And that's when the rotary aircraft were able to move into the area. And I want you to think about it like this. Basically, you've got these helicopters that are rolling in with DEA and Delta, rolling into the area 100 feet off the treetops. And there's just this rolling wave of destruction in front of them, right? So at 1:01 Eastern time, they drop off their elements, their various ground security elements, and then go into various holding patterns and things like that. There are some skirmishes, but generally speaking, it was a textbook operation. There were lots of self-defense engagements, lots of firefights and things like that. But they were able to gain access to, oh yeah, I forgot. They turned the lights off, which was super cute. So you can literally see if you watch the videos, you'll see like when the strikes start, you'll see like explosion against like lit backgrounds and all that sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden you see a different like time frame of video where it's black. All you see is burning stuff against black background, right? Which is hilarious. Apparently we cyber attacked their infrastructure and shut all the electricity off, so super dark down there. These special operations elements supporting the law enforcement elements move into the compound, secure Nicolas Maduro and his wife, put him on a helicopter, fly him out to a carrier. Reports are no U.S. deaths, 12 injuries as of right now. So 12 individuals were injured. We don't have reports on whether that was in direct firefights or whether that was because there was one aircraft that was reported damaged. So there was no loss of U.S. Personnel or equipment, but there was one damaged aircraft and 12 injuries of some kind, but no loss of life. And then 40 enemy KIA confirmed at this point in time. No report on injuries. Start to finish, 2 hours and 20 minutes all told. So there you go. That is the report on what happened on the ground as we know it right now. He has been charged in New York, and there will probably be some kind of battle between New York and Florida for who wants to get him for what, and that'll play out here pretty soon. We'll see how that all goes down. But they took him alive, him and his wife, and it sounds to me like after the initial firefight started, he basically gave up, is what it sounds like. Which, look, if Delta Force comes to my house in the middle of the night, I'm just like, whatever you want, man. Because spooky shit, man. It's just absolutely spooky shit. Anyway, to the chat. Self-deport. I mean, there is, I alleged, and I was really just kind of getting your guys' ideas on it, on whether he was complicit in getting himself nabbed. I don't know. Depends on how the charges all go. If he's going to go down for like 40 years or something like that, I don't think that he went willingly. If there's some kind of deal cut, which very well may happen, because we have an interest in the United States that these dictators not have a platform to stand in front of a public forum and shout down the United States, right? We have a vested interest in that not happening. So it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't take a deal, right? Noriega, I think, spent 20 years in prison, and then they took him to France, where he served some more time. So I don't know. I mean, maybe you could. I don't know. How old is Maduro? I would say that he looks like he's in his 50s, right? So if you're in your 50s, do you take a 20-year sentence? I don't think you consider that a reasonable trade. Do you take 10? Maybe. Versus a bullet or a bomb, drone strike, Hellfire missile, whatever. I don't know. I really don't know. So I would say that probably my mind is tending more towards, at this point in time, that he didn't give himself up, that it was raw intelligence work that got him. I mean, we've been working there for months at this point in time. It would be pretty easy to develop those sort of things in that time frame to be able to figure out shift schedules, who's on security, develop those human assets, all that sort of stuff. Plenty of time to do that. So raw intelligence, I'm willing to say that that's the case, but I'll be considerably more skeptical of that if he gets like a really awesome deal or something like that. Black Dog Original asks, so why compare it to Iraq at this point in time? Because there is a potential that it could devolve into civil war. And that's why when we start to see various things, appropriations from Congress and things like that for this sort of thing, that we understand why Congress is going to want to spend a whole shitload of money in Venezuela. Okay, because that's coming, right? Your tax dollars will go to work in Venezuela. It's not going to be cheap. And when you see that sort of thing, you understand what that means, because if we aren't meeting the human needs of people's salaries, their just calories going into people's bodies and stuff like that in the region, then you could very well see civil war very quickly. Also, what presence does China and Russia and all those folks have in the region that are able to spool up various elements of dissent? I don't know those answers, and neither do you. Somebody does, but we don't have it at this point in time. All right, so let me get through some of these comments here, and we're going to go to the indictment here in just a second, so you guys can actually see what's going on. Yeah, so comments about Iraq and, stuff like that. I think I've addressed that aspect of it. Okay, so let me switch over here to, I don't need this anymore. Let me switch over to the indictment for Maduro here. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to remind you that we have a giveaway going on from First Form. Yeah. Value pack of their protein sources, various flavors, and all that sort of stuff. And the winner will be whoever has the best block name for Nicolas Maduro. My entry is Little Nicky. You cannot use that one. Do something better. Winner will be announced tomorrow. Okay, and click the right one. All right, cool. And it looks like we need to go in a little bit. All right, cool. So we have this indictment here for Nicolas Maduro and various other folks as well. Obviously, right there. And Celia Flores, as well as some henchmen in here. He's currently, okay, I see. So somebody says that he is currently 63. Yeah, I'm not going down. If I'm 63 years old, I'm not making a deal for 20 years in prison. Okay. At that point in time, that means you're 83. That's the remainder of your natural life. I would say that, unless he gets some kind of like really amazing deal that he did not turn himself in. So he looks good for 63, or at least right now. I guess that's what happens when the rest of your country is starving and you're living high on the hog. So anyway, like I said, indictment in the Southern District of New York, which will likely screw this up, I think. Plenty of communists over there, sympathizers for Nicolas Maduro and there's a whole bunch of people here, but the big ones are Nicolas Maduro and Celia Flores, his wife. And this indictment is 25 pages long. I'm not going to run through all of it. I'm going to show you the relevant places, but I have read this entire thing, and I'm basically going to give you a synopsis of what this says. And in this section, it outlines essentially that Nicolas Maduro is an illegitimate dictator who lost his election and forced his competition out, and that he is a essentially a head of state, or excuse me, a leader of a transnational terrorist organization acting as a head of state. And the way that that works is that there is this and the way that this works is that there's like this patronage system. These various heads of various criminal organizations contribute to the various political workings in his government, basically. And that's how he's able to maintain his air of legitimacy, but also never run out of money and all that sort of stuff, and be able to do all the things that he does. So basically funded by the various organizations, and then he in turn runs cover with the military and police for their operations. It also outlines the various methods that they use for distribution. So remember, Venezuela has access to the Gulf. Direct shots, if you divide the United States down the center, and that center line runs right through Mexico, right? So you got a land barrier there. You can move product in through Mexico, up through the border. You can run product across the Gulf of Mexico, or excuse me, the Gulf of America, or I guess burning boats Gulf, if you would like. You can move it in that way through Florida, Louisiana, Alabama, Texas, all that stuff. Or you can go up the other side, which is like Colombia area, and go in through Cali, really bad town on the border with Mexico. Can't think of it off the top of my head. That whole region up through there, up into New Mexico, and that whole area, right? Most of the airstrikes that you've been seeing have been going on in that corridor that I just mentioned, but also you've got the capabilities of the military capabilities of threatening, as we mentioned earlier in the live stream, the U.S. oil production and refinement capabilities on the Gulf of America, right, from Venezuela. So Venezuela's over here, or for you guys, Venezuela would be over here, and Colombia over here, Mexico kind of in the center. We hit the Venezuelan element of it. And basically what they're saying is, hey, this region has access to the water ports that distribute to the Gulf states, and it has direct access to the mountains of Colombia to move stuff through that region as well, to their water ports. So there you go. That's basically what all that paragraph there says. And because a minute I went ahead and flipped it over. So that's what all this says. It then goes on to outline who all the people that they indicted were. Obviously, Nicolas Maduro, their various henchmen, Celia Flores, what she did, right? All that sort of stuff. And then, where are we at here? It goes in to discuss their association with the FARC, which is, am I allowed to say that? I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. We'll call it a previous, a former organization out of Colombia. Sinaloa, various other places right here. It outlines all that sort of stuff. And then did it get to indictments? Where, what page am I? Oh, no, we need to go down farther. So it outlines all that sort of stuff. And then it outlines each of the details of what they did in each instance. So everything from drug trafficking to the narco-terrorism stuff, it outlines specific instances that that are pertinent to the case, basically. And again, this is an indictment, so this is going to be not exactly full of details, but enough to get the indictment, basically. All right, so what we have here are the actual allegations. If you want to read this whole document, it begins on page 18 of this document. First one, statutory allegations, narco-terrorism conspiracy. I think that everybody can probably agree that that occurred, right? And that's probably a good thing to charge the dude with, right? Then to cocaine importation conspiracy. All right, that's number 2. And then here's the one that count 3, possession of machine guns and destructive devices. I'm actually gonna read into this one for you. So, so basically, it says here, go back and read the previous sections that I kind of glossed over. From at least in or about 1999 up to and including in or about 2025 in an offense begun and committed out of the jurisdiction of any particular state or district of the United States, which basically means, he did this basically everywhere. So the feds are going to do this. Nicolas Maduro and his co-conspirators. Here we go. Knowingly used and carried firearms, and in furtherance of such crimes, knowingly possessed firearms and aided in abetting the use, carrying, and possession of firearms, to wit, machine guns that were capable of automatically shooting more than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger, as well as destructive devices. So the specific allegation is that they had hand grenades, basically, if you were to go all the way back up. Right. Then count 4, conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. Same thing from 1999 up into 2025. Defendants and other known and unknown during the relation to drug trafficking crime for which they may be prosecuted in the court of the United States, to wit, all of those guys. Controlled substance offenses charged, et cetera, controlled substances, knowingly used and carried firearms, and furtherance of such crimes, knowingly possessed firearms and aided in abetting the illegal use, abetted the use, carrying, and possession of firearms capable of firing automatically, shooting more than one shot without manual reloading, single function of the trigger, as well as destructive devices. Bingo, right? So I made a whole video this yesterday. I've been getting blasted in the eye with something for the last couple minutes, and now it is finally here, and I can see it on screen now that I switched back. I'm going to fix that. Hang on. That was super annoying, and now that I could see it on the screen, I'm like, okay, that's what it was. So I've been doing some rearrangement in here because I'll be moving shortly over to the other side of the office for a larger space that we can use for filming of everything. And I was messing with this yesterday, and apparently that curtain over there got displaced. The sun has risen, or has burned through the clouds finally today and is now coming through. There was a small gap at the very top, and it was hitting me right in the eye. So anyway, look, as far as these charges are concerned, as I said, we all understand the justification for why this is occurring. It's the oil in support of U.S. industry, as well as taking it from China, as well as taking a strategic location for them to be able to launch or threaten launches against our oil infrastructure. We all know what it is. Okay? This is the same government that said it was a tragedy when they went to Ruby Ridge and murdered Randy Weaver's son, neighbor, shot his dog, and killed his wife while he was holding their infant child. The same government that was willing to burn down a church full of men, women, and children, 70-some people burned alive because of somebody's weapons that they had. So when it comes to those sort of things, we know what it is. I don't care whether this dude is a bad dude that was involved in this sort of activity or not. I think that it's pretty much cut and dry that he was involved in this activity. Should he face justice for those sort of things? Yeah. However, using unconstitutional laws against anybody, I don't care how bad they are, for whatever purpose you were using them against that person. In this instance, it's clear that they are adding those on there to make sure that should he be convicted or takes some kind of deal, that they're able to put him away for a longer period of time. Because that's, in some ways, how they use those sort of things. How they use the NFA violations is to enhance your conviction. He's a bad dude. Did he order the deaths of people? More than most likely. Did he kill thousands of U.S. citizens with his product? Probably. Did he illicitly maintain power through political persecution and intimidation? Yes. Was he acting extra constitutionally as far as his country's laws are concerned? Yes. Did he have a stranglehold on the military and police and all that sort of stuff and use them for all of his processes? Probably. Again, just because he is a bad guy, or allegedly a bad guy, does not mean that you can leverage unconstitutional laws against him, because it sets a bad precedent. Because you use them against a guy like that, and what's to keep them from using them against people like you? An unconstitutional law is an unconstitutional law, regardless of who you use it against and what purpose you use it for. And the Department of Justice, who will stand up there and say that they are the most Second Amendment thing that has occurred since the self-contained cartridge, should not be doing that. And this shows exactly who they are. They're willing to lie to your face about it and go through and use these things when it suits their purposes. And it's not okay. And none of you should be okay with it, is what I'm saying. I don't usually tell you guys how to think, but this is not okay. The drug trafficking stuff, the narco-terrorism, all that sort of stuff, you want to charge him with that? While I don't agree that the war on drugs has been particularly effective, I do really like watching drug boats get blown up in the middle of the ocean. I think it's funny. Well, I don't think that it's been particularly effective, and that there are probably more effective ways to eliminate that sort of illicit business. That's not what I'm here to rail against. I think that, those things are bad things, and that if the United States government wants to take that person to task over those things, I think that it's well within its rights to do so. When it comes to violation of, again, I guarantee you there's going to be somebody in here who's going to say, well, he's not a United States citizen. He doesn't have United States rights. Are they rights or are they privileges? If they are rights, they come from God through creation. Nicolas Maduro is a human being. May not be a great human being, He is a human being, and therefore he has a right to self-defense. He does. That may not be popular. I would say that his people, even though they were doing bad stuff, have a right to defend themselves. Do I believe that they can and should be arrested if they were involved in those crimes? Yes, I think that they should be. But that doesn't mean the United States should leverage. Otherwise, I think it's very easy to argue that they are illicit laws. They are not valid laws against people just because they want to enhance those convictions. I don't think that that's the way they should do it. I don't believe that quote unquote gun crimes should exist at all. It's illegal to traffic narcotics. It is illegal to conduct terroristic acts. It is illegal to murder people. It is illegal to do all these other things. You don't need to stack gun crimes on top of them, because what gun crimes do is you write the laws for bad actors, but then they get used against people like you and me, like Randy Weaver and the like, all over the length of a shotgun barrel, for instance. Anyway, you may not like that. Yeah, I might be preaching to the choir to some of you. I might be riling some of you up over that. Some of you really like Orange Man. I'm kind of ambivalent towards Orange Man. I think that his press conference yesterday was an absolute dumpster fire. But generally speaking, I agree with a lot of the direction that is being taken with various things. But that doesn't mean I agree with all of it. I don't agree. Sean Lively says 2A does not apply to illegals here in the United States. I don't agree. I do not agree. Is it a right or is it a privilege? If you use uniform application of logic, if it is a right, then it is inherent. It exists. It's a natural right that you, when the spark of life enters you, you have. Now, we do regulate that and say that you can exercise that right once you reach the age of majority. In most cases, or in most places, that means that you are able to exercise that right once you become an official adult, right? But you either have a right or it is a privilege. A right is inalienable, cannot be separated from you. A privilege can be taken away and is dictated by laws and government. Which is it? If somebody who is here illegal in the United States does not have the right to self-defense, does not have the right to keep and bear arms, then nobody has the right to keep and bear arms, because that's a privilege dictated by the government. These are incongruent. They do not work together. It's one way or the other. It's that the rights don't enjoy the same protections that American citizens do. I don't know. What is the right to self-defense? Once you crack the nut on that and start running it down, the logic takes you to a not so great place, right? So I'm just telling you, if you go past the platitudes that are constantly put out there by people like the Department of Justice, well, they're here illegally, they don't have rights. What does that actually mean, right? And what does that mean for you? Anyway, we've gone to a place where we didn't necessarily need to go. I do not agree with the machine gun and destructive devices laws, period, or or their use against Nicolas Maduro. If you want to go after the narcotics stuff, I think there's basis for that. If you want to go after the other stuff when it comes to his maintain on power in Venezuela extra constitutionally, then yeah, probably. I think that there is a basis for that. When it comes to the gun stuff, the Department of Justice should not be doing that sort of stuff. Nope, it's bad. Anyway, let's see. Again, we have been at this for just over an hour, so we're going to be wrapping up the show here pretty soon. I'm going to remind you that we have a giveaway going on today, and the winner of that giveaway will win if they give us the best block name for Nicolas Maduro. Mine is Little Nicky. First Form is a pro-freedom supplement and nutrition company. They've been working with us here at VSO for a little over a year now. I use their products every single day. I left my energy drink in the other room on the counter. I decided not to go get it. I should probably lay off that anyway because I've already had coffee today. And I took basically a couple sips out of it and then went to change into my apparel, left it in the other room. My favorite is their purple. But the thing that I use of theirs just about every single day is one of the protein sources. So we're going to be giving a value pack away of their protein sources. Winner is the best block name for Nicolas Maduro. Funniest one wins. Go. And then whatever else you guys want to talk about here today, I'm going to browse through these comments really quick and see if we've got anything else. The mustache of Miraflores. I actually started watching, my wife and I started watching the show Landman a couple days ago on the recommendation of my brother. Thus far, I'm really appreciating the show. I think it's done well. Usually don't appreciate political allegory in a lot of shows because usually it's the opposite way. And it's just like, oh my gosh, can we just stop doing this? But that show's been pretty good. And I also hear that Fallout is pretty good. So we might start watching that one here pretty soon. We kind of have like an evening ritual where we're kind of like winding down for the day, where we sit there and watch an episode or two of a show of some kind. Well, we wrap up all the other stuff for the day. Nicolas the Cage. Oh, that might be a good one. I have to go back and look and see what everybody else has written. But that one is pretty good. We also had muzzleloader season here. This one, we didn't have a whole lot of takers this year. We had 2 folks out there muzzleloader hunting. My brother, I'll actually be putting a video up on Instagram here in a little bit of my brother discharging his muzzleloader. He uses a 54 caliber muzzleloader that has a musket cap system on it. And that thing is an absolute freaking tank. It has a set trigger. And unfortunately, fortunately for me, we may be doing some videos on that one because he cracked the stock on that one. So I think he put too much powder in it. I think he was using the powder measure wrong. And it actually hairline cracked the stock. So we might have to be replacing that stock here pretty soon. The thing is an absolute tank. He actually came over 2 days ago. And he walks into my shop. He had like this collection of stuff for muzzleloader hunting. He had the rifle with the ramrod, obviously. He didn't have any musket caps. So he's like looking around in my shop for musket caps. Sure enough, he finds a tin of musket caps. Actually, he returned them to me yesterday. And it must be in my jacket pocket. He didn't have a powder measure. So he stole my powder measurer. He did not have the right powder, but he had a comparable substitute, and and I don't think that he had test fired it at all because he ended up putting too much powder in it, and like I said, it's cracked the stock. And then also he showed up with this like package of like the same package of 54 caliber mini balls that he's been using since we were teenagers, basically, because he's used this gun like a whole bunch over the years. Same package, but they were so old that all of the lubricant. So a mini ball has like these flanges. So it's like you say mini ball, but it's not really a ball. It's more shaped kind of like this, and it has these like bands in it, and in those bands are supposed to be some lubricant to help it go down. Usually you use like boar butter or beeswax or something like that to grease the balls so that they go down the barrel really easily. And all of the lubricant on those had just like kind of wasted away. Like it was like hard and cracked and wouldn't come off. So he was like literally going through my shop looking for the ignition source, a way to measure the ignition source, a ball starter. And if you don't know what a ball starter is, it's basically a little nubbin with a handle that you basically push the nubbin onto the top of the projectile, and it pushes it down level with the barrel, and then it has a little short stem that you hold the handle, and you push the ball down so it goes down the barrel about that far, and then you pull your ramrod out and jam it all the way down with your ramrod. So he's looking for one of those. And he was also looking for some kind of material to lube his balls with. You know what? I think we'll just go ahead and call that the show, boys and girls. Again, special thanks to First Forum for making today's live stream possible, and hopefully we'll see you on a future one here at the VSO Gun Channel. He did find all of those things that he was looking for in my shop. He stole them, and then did return them all, so they all are back. He obviously did not kill a deer. So when you get done with a muzzleloader hunt, there's really only one way to unload the gun, and that is to take it to the range and shoot it. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go over to Instagram and put up that video so that you guys can enjoy it. Y'all have a great rest of the weekend, and we will see you this week with regularly scheduled content. Hopefully